Hey, this is yet another transfemme voice training video. There are tons out there like it. But I posted a couple of voice clips on Tumblr the other day, and a lot of people were kind of wondering how I do voice training exercises, what my philosophy towards voice training is. And also, if I make a video of this, it also forces me to record myself while running through a bunch of exercises, so it's very helpful for me as well. This is mostly just going to be a ramble thought dump interspersed with exercises and talking about it. So first, I want to say this is kind of my voice that I use mostly day to day. This is the voice that is kind of my default. I don't necessarily think this is my pre-transition voice. I think I've managed to change it a little bit through very minimal gradual effort. I think I really only started kind of doing anything with it about a month ago. I learned a bunch of techniques before then, but I feel like I only actually started changing it and like thinking about it about a month ago. I am capable of doing a more feminine voice than this. I don't think it's necessarily good, but I will show you how, and I will explain how I use that in a moment. But first, kind of in general, the principles. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with some of the basic voice training principles. There are far, far better videos out there. And I explain this, but I like to break it down into three components, from least important to most important. So pitch is the one everyone knows, but is the least important. There are female tenors that are still registered as women's voices, dropping well into male vocal ranges. And if you just increase your pitch, what you're most likely to end up with is some kind of like falsetto sounding or like gay stereotype voice. So pitch, I would say don't focus on just pitching yourself up a whole ton. Especially because pitch follows from some of the other elements of voice training, and your pitch will get higher if you train in other aspects. The other second most important aspect, weight. Weight is the inconsistency in your voice. It's kind of an amalgamation of all of the different little roughness and graveliness of your voice that a lot of male voices have. This is very important for vocal training. Unfortunately, I can't really give much help here. My voice has always been very smooth in that regard. You could say it's feminine. It didn't sound feminine because it didn't have the last aspect down. But I think it has something to do with me doing like some performing arts as a kid and being trained to like really make some of like, at least not all the time, but like I intrinsically knew how to take my sound and make it like round and pure. So I haven't really done anything on that because that's something I can very easily snap to and I can very easily implement. So I haven't really had to think about it much. The last one is what almost all of my voice training focuses on, and that is resonance. If you've seen any of the like quick hack tutorials on how to instantly feminize your voice, they're all dealing with resonance. The quick hack kind of things, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's all about effort and consistency, but what the hell even is resonance? Resonance is the unvoiced tones of your voice. So all sound is essentially composites of tons of pitch. The actual pitch of your sound is the dominant pitch. In your voice, that dominant pitch is the one being produced by your vocal cords or vocal folds, whereas all of the other pitches are generated by the act of moving air through your body and the rest of that body kind of vibrating around. That resonance follows the same trend as pitch, lower masculine, higher feminine, but it can also be trained. And that training is a muscle. This is weightlifting. This is going to the gym. And this is gradual change over time. So what I like to do is I have three kind of what I call dramatic exercises that really are like the push exercises. These are the ones that fully get my resonance up to the place I need to be. If I do want to make a demonstration kind of clip or like practice a full feminine voice, these are the exercises I use to prime myself into that and to kind of snap myself instantly into it. So I'll break it down into the three I use for that. They're all reliant on unvoiced tones. I'm going to demonstrate the first one, whisper slide, because it is the best at explaining what resonance is on principle as well. So what you're going to do is you're essentially going to breathe out, monitor the tone of that breath, and then slide the pitch of the breath without your voice up. You can also do it while doing repeated breathy whisper of the same word over and over while pitching it up, but I prefer to just slide it. Your muscles will change, your throat will change, and then you need to lock that in and then bring back your speaking voice. So what does that look like for me? So, hello, hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hi, so this is kind of the voice that results from that. Note that I'm not specifically trying to make my pitch any higher, but the resulting pitch did get higher. You should try to minimize this because having a large gap between your pitch and resonance can kind of end up in a weird tone. But also, again, the goal of this is not to get a feminine voice straight off the bat. The goal of this is to start lifting weights. The goal of it is to start getting the muscular strength out. To be quite honest, right now, I'm more talking so I can demonstrate what my voice sounds like when I've locked into this zone. This is the most effective exercise for me. It's the one that I like to do the most. It's also very easy to, as I just did there, if you notice that you're slipping, it's very easy to quickly let it slip back into a whisper slide and then push yourself back up. The only problem with having this one powerful exercise down your belt is that you can kind of teach yourself to the test. And if your body doesn't know, like if psychologically you don't know how to carry this back over into a voiced tone, you're always going to treat it as a completely independent thing of a voice tone. And you can kind of psychologically trick yourself into overtraining this one skill. So what you need to do is you need to take that same principle of monitoring how high your unvoiced tones are and bring that to other exercises and rotate them out frequently. So I do have two other exercises that I rotate in and out, but I personally don't think they're as powerful. So let's drop myself back down here. Hello? Yeah. There's two other ways that I do change my voice, and they both operate on the same principle. Another one is panting. I've also heard it described as big dog, small dog. So just pant like a heavy, haughty dog, and then bring that into like a chihuahua pant. That's doing the same thing, right? You're measuring the pitch of your breath, but since it's kind of a different motion, a different thing in your body, you're not overtraining yourself to whisper slides. So you can start out with the hello, 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 hello. And this has largely accomplished a lot of the same thing, but again, you're just trying to psychologically make sure that you aren't tricking yourself into treating this thing as its compartmentalized box, and you're actually doing this in different ways. The last thing is under the same principle. This is a very common technique if people are doing it for the meme, if they want to do like a girl voice for the meme, but it's actually around this same principle, how to prime yourself, and that's the flicking method. So I'm going to bring myself back down here, and then essentially the flicking method is you're not producing any air. So if you have trouble with lung capacity or like forcing stuff through, this might become your dominant method. You're going to instead let sound resonate through those resonating chambers based on physical flicking of your throat, which will produce like a puckered drumming sound, right? So I'm kind of going, without altering it yet, I'm just going, and then while I'm doing that, while I have that dook, 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 dook going, I can alter my throat so that duk 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 pitches itself upwards. So sometimes with that, I also kind of make a weird croak at the end because I'm like forcing my muscles in a weird way. I don't know exactly why it happens. It kind of just does. Yeah, I think that's the one that like makes the least sense for me and doesn't really work as effectively for me. So that's the one I use the least, but again, I rotate them in and out as much as possible so that I don't overtrain myself to vocal slides specifically. So that kind of is the end of like the main techniques portion. However, I don't actually do this all that frequently. I don't hit this hard. I don't have like a training schedule. I don't use this feminine voice very often. I don't use it at all in my daily life. I got to the point in voice training where a lot of these guides were saying, okay, now abandon your male voice completely and just try to snap into your female voice 100% of the time. And honestly, I can't do that. My voice slips very easily, and also you might find that when you're starting out with your female voice, you lose a lot of projection. And I teach, like I'm a TA, I'm a graduate student, and so I need to be able to clearly and effectively communicate with people. And also a lot of times I'm like thinking a lot, and so locking myself into this voice requires a lot of mental energy as well. So I instead kind of think of this voice, think as doing the full femme voice, and I'm going to renormalize myself for a bit. Think of doing this voice as testing your bench press limit. This is going to the table and specifically testing the very limit of what you can do. But is that how you build strength long term? No. When we go to the gym, we do lots of repetition over a long period of time of potentially smaller weights. And so what I've done is over time, I've essentially talked in my normal voice, but always tried to sit just a little bit lighter, a little bit higher in resonance, right? Once you've done these exercises a lot, you'll know how it feels to change your resonance and then just talk, but sit at the top of your resonance. Without trying to push the range, just feel what your resonance range is and just sit at the top of it. As you speak in a normal voice, you'll notice that your resonant chambers are changing slightly. Just work with that range that your voice is already fluctuating within and just perch yourself on the top of it and just stay there for as long as you can while talking. And then slowly over time, you'll find that that point is ticking up higher and higher and higher, and what you are the most comfortable with is actually going to change and actually get into that more feminine range over time. I actually kind of only started thinking about it that way a month ago, and I think my voice has already changed slightly, very slightly, imperceptibly. I was maybe doing it a little before, but yeah, I do think there are a tiny bit of changes, and over time, I do think that it will yield a very gradual change in my voice. However, there's one last skill and one last exercise to gain that skill that I think is important here. Because while perching yourself at the top of that resonance, while you're talking, while you're living your daily life, to do that, you have to know when you're slipping, because you will slip. You will pitch back down. You will have your resonance slip down. It's inevitable, right? That's just what's going to happen as your voice tires throughout the day. It's going to go back to the lower resonant tones. And so you need a way to kind of conceptualize on the fly where your resonance is without doing a weird, awkward exercise mid-sentence sometimes. So to build that skill, we're first going to do a weird, awkward exercise that you can do in the comfort of your own home to get a sense for how things feel while you're talking. And that's essentially to bring the voice back into the unvoiced. This is not a way to exercise your resonance. This is a way to check your resonance. You might see this as a resonance exercise sometimes. I don't think it's effective as a resonance exercise. It's a good resonance check. I'm rambling. But anyways, we'll bring things back down, and we'll bring things back down in the resonance and a little bit in the pitch. What you need to do is you need to spatially think about what is vibrating when you talk. So right now I'm talking in a normal voice, and this is even because I've been talking in this video a bit, this is my slipped normal voice. So this is starting to become more and more masculine as I talk more and more, and what I'm doing internally is I'm monitoring what in my body is vibrating. And so mostly where I hear the sound being produced is my lower throat, a little bit in my chest, and a little bit at the top of my throat up here. That is kind of reflective of how the air is being pushed through my entire airway respiratory system, right? So what we can do is try to get a sense of spatially how sound moves through your body. And you can do that just with a hum. If you hum and start altering the pitch and also altering the same muscles that you felt recruited during the whisper slides and just seeing where that resonates, what you can do is try to essentially physically move the location of that vibration up through your body until instead of here, you should be feeling more vibrations here. So for me, that looks something like starting with a kind of buzzy hum, but might end up a bit nasally, but that's, again, not really an exercise to actually alter your resonance. But now when I'm talking, for example, I can pair it with some of the other things, and as I talk for longer and longer periods of time, now I understand when my voice is resonating in my head, so now I can actually feel most of my voice is being produced kind of here to here, whereas if I drop down back here, most of my voice is being produced like here to here. So yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do to exercise. That's what I do to check myself. And again, the main strategy is talking normally throughout your day and just sitting at the top, checking yourself constantly, doing the exercises when you can to get a sense for what you need to be doing, but perching at the top of normal and letting your normal shift, and then perching back at the top of it and letting it shift. So yeah, I'm not an expert. There's far better videos out there, but I posted voice clips to Tumblr and people were specifically curious about what I do. That's what I do. You can look into all of these techniques more and there will be people explaining them better. But yeah, this is probably longer than it had to be. I don't know how to end a video. Bye!